Hello, friends, and welcome to the Bikes for Death podcast. My name is Patrick. I'm your host, and this podcast is designed to inspire you to go outside and ride your damn bike. Today's inspirational figure comes by way of Katy McGuire, who was our lanterne Rouge at this year's East Texas Showdown. A lanterne Rouge is a fancy way or a nice way of saying last place, but it is certainly a term of endearment and an honor to be the last place finisher of this year's race and really any race. We always got to respect everybody who guts it out all the way to the end to finish when, maybe you wanted to pull out, maybe you wanted to quit. It wasn't going your way. We'll let Katy tell her story, but, there is a lot of value in pushing through when things are hard and you want to quit. And I really respect Katy for coming up across some obstacles and some challenges that she wasn't expecting whenever she signed up for the race. But, she kept a positive attitude or tried to, and she got it done. Before heading over to do my East Texas Showdown, she had spent the previous about 5 or 6 months pretty much living off of her bike due to the fact that she lost her job during the pandemic. So she took that opportunity to do what she's wanted to do for quite some time, which is to go and explore on her bike. She accumulated about 4,000 miles in that time and got to go and see and do a lot of great solo bike packing. I met with Katy on a very uncomfortable park bench that was like at a slant and angled, and I'm fairly tall, but neither one of our feet would touch the ground. But it was actually a beautiful day, and we had a wonderful conversation, and I hope that you enjoy it. But before we get to that episode, I want to take a minute to thank our newest sustaining patrons. If you enjoy this episode or any of the body of work that we bring you here at Bikes for Death, maybe you'd like to sign up as a patron to either buy me a coffee in the morning or a whiskey to help soothe away the day's aches and pains. To do so, you can sign up over at patreon.com/bikesor-death. And you can sign up to be a sustaining member of this show for as little as $1 a month. And genuinely, every dollar counts. So let's take a moment to thank this week's newest patrons. First, we have Drew Pittman, Mark Smith, Matt Christensen, and Caleb Schnatz. Thank you, gentlemen, for signing up to be a supporting and sustaining member of the podcast. And I'll see you on the private Facebook group. Everybody else, head over to patreon.com/bikesfordeath to sign up. All right, everybody. Today, I've got a new advertising partner that I'd like to reintroduce to you. Some of you may have listened to my episode with Kate Gates. She's one of the owners of Mulberry Gap in Ellijay, Georgia. She's on the podcast today as an advertising partner. And Kate, why don't you go ahead and reintroduce Mulberry Gap to anybody who maybe hasn't listened to that episode yet?
Yeah, awesome. Well, I appreciate having the chance to talk with you today, Patrick, and grateful for this opportunity. So, Mulberry Gap started back in 2007 with my mom and my now mother-in-law and now husband. And I was just dating Andrew at the time, but we've been in our 15th year now. And Andrew and I have kind of taken over the business from the parents who have retired back to Florida because this started as a retirement hobby for them. So we've been here kind of running the show for about the last 8 or 9 years in the general sense. And I've been having a great time here in the North Georgia mountains. So we offer a mixture of cabins and campsite lodging for overnight guests, as well as day use options for people if you're just kind of in the area or live close by and kind of staying overnight doesn't make the most sense for you. We've got hot tubs. Those are absolutely important. Shuttles to various trailheads throughout the area for not only bikers, but hikers and trail runners as well. We have a pretty great beer selection in our retail store, as well as wine that'll be coming next year in 2022. We're going to be adding that to our list of services. We've got really, really good, amazing home cooked meals that my mother-in-law did for the first 14 years of the business. But we have a new cook, Donna, that's been kicking ass this year and keeping our reputation alive in the food department. We are very well known for our food. We've also got a really great events calendar with different clinics and courses throughout the year, group rides, group runs. We host different events like weddings, bikepacking summits, different gravel events, and just kind of a little bit of everything. So basically, we are seeking the outdoor adventurer to come out here and kind of use us as a base camp to access all the recreation in the North Georgia mountains.
Yeah, it's a beautiful spot that y'all have there. I obviously met you at the 2019 bikepacking summit that was held at Mulberry Gap, and that's when we got a chance to have you on the podcast. So we'll be having you back on the podcast for sure, but for people who want to kind of take a deeper dive into Mulberry Gap, I'll put the link to the episode that you and I did in the show notes so people can check that out.
Yeah, awesome. That sounds great.
Well, thanks for coming on today, Kate.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Well, that is it for paying bills on this episode. I am leaving tomorrow early to head over to Las Cruces, New Mexico, where they're hosting the first ever New Mexico Bikepacking Summit on Friday. And then Saturday and Sunday is the Danger Bird, which is not a race. It is a ride that you can do in any way, fashion, shape, form that you want to do it. In fact, you don't even need your bike. You can just walk it or run it if you want to. The weather is looking absolutely insane, and I'm very much looking forward to heading up to New Mexico and being a part of that amazing event. I'm going to be there with my camera and my microphone, so if you see me there, come up, say hi, and maybe we can chat a little bit for the podcast. Okay, major announcement. Woo, woo, woo. I need a siren. I need some bells and whistles or something. But major East Texas Showdown announcement and news. I'm officially announcing that we are going to hold a spring edition of the East Texas Showdown. Mark your calendars for April 1st. Those are the only details that I'm going to give out, right? Well, I'll give a few more out. The route is going to stay the same based on everybody's feedback and opinions. The route was good or great, depending on who you were. But overall, the route was really well received. The event was well received. And actually, the demand and interest in having this in the spring was so great that, hey, I'm not one to turn down a good time. If y'all want to get together and ride your bikes, have a party in the woods, then I am all about that. So let's make it happen. More details will be coming out very, very soon. But for right now, if you just want to mark your calendars for April 1st, we're going to do this damn thing, and I'm going to be releasing more info ASAP. A good way to keep updated with news for the East Texas Showdown is there's a Facebook page. There's also an Instagram page, or you can sign up for the Bikes or Death newsletter just at bikesorddeath.com. So follow along if you want to get some more deets. All right, everybody, let's have Miles Arbor kick it off with the Bikes or Death theme song.
You load up your bike, you ride away from home. You could be with your friends or you could be alone. You ride for a day or maybe more. You just love being in the great outdoors. Everything you need is strapped to your bars, including that new pillow you got from Santa Claus. And then you think, oh shit, to yourself. You left that super lightweight tent on the living room shelf. Bikes or death. Bikes or death. Podcast.
Our 2021 East Texas Showdown Lanterne Rouge. Whoa. How are you feeling? So we're what did it say? 4 days after the race?
I don't know. Is it 4 or 3 days?
3 or 4 days. Yeah, it's
I
not very far.
I was last, so I finished significantly after first place. It's been one or two less days.
Oh.
I'm feeling okay. I recovered pretty fast. My legs are a little sore. Mentally, I'm fine. I'm super happy that I did the 340 out of the 380. I wish it could have had a different outcome. I wanted to feel a little bit better at the start, but I'm super pleased with what I was able to accomplish with what I kind of brought to the table at the start, which honestly wasn't a lot from kind of a hectic week and just hectic life transition
Yeah.
beforehand. So the fact that I did my 2 longest rides consecutively back to back, I was really, really impressed with myself. So
You're too long. Oh, so like day 1 and day 2.
yeah, I had never ridden over like 112 miles because I honestly just never felt the need to.
Right.
So the fact that I kind of did it 2 times in a row was just that was an accomplishment for me
Hell
on very
yeah.
little in the tank and not feeling all that great.
Yeah.
So the legs were great. To be honest, it was every other body part that just kind of shit the bed.
Well said. Shit the bed. Well said.
I've been by myself all summer, so my language might be a little
Good.
I'll keep it in check.
No, please don't, man. You should have heard. Well, you missed the kind of the speech that I gave at the end with the awards and everything like that. I got to thinking back about it, and I was cursing like a sailor. I was F this and F that. I was just, whenever I get excited, I start cussing, man. They just start flying out of my mouth. I'll tell you what.
It's just how it comes out sometimes.
Well,
That's how you
luckily-
feel.
Yeah. And the other thing that you have to remember is that we have an editor, and this is all. So, like, if we need, we just,
Snip, snip.
no,
Okay.
no one needs to hear if we say something stupid,
Okay, good. I was a little worried about that. I was
No.
telling my dad, I'm nervous. I'm like, I've been by myself so much this summer. I've only had my own thoughts for the most part. So this is good for me since I'm in job hunting mode and have to
you
get
have
back
to-
into interview. But
Yeah, I'm going to interview you.
well, I've always had a really if I'm in a professional setting, I can keep a very professional demeanor. But this is that in between zone. So
Right. Yeah,
we'll see how it goes.
I would hope this is not professional. Let's try to keep this as not professional as possible.
Yeah. Well, I actually was thinking when this eventually is published, I will have no problem sharing this with any kind of future employers because I want them to know, what their employees can do and the type of tough mental things that they are capable of. And
Yeah.
People can do more than they think. So this is something, I believe in being completely open and transparent. I don't have anything to hide.
Yeah.
So I would freely share this with anyone who would consider, employing me in the future.
Well, yeah, like what? Oh, you cuss? Oh, no.
Yeah.
Katy cusses.
Just as a, to show, how well-rounded or,
Yeah.
other aspects of an employee. There's more to people than just that's what's on their resume that make them valuable.
I'm self-employed and have been so for a long time. I like what you're saying. I think that's really cool. But how many employers do you think are really valuing that from an employee? I'm just curious. I don't know.
They're not very many, but I think that
If you find the right one.
if you find the right one, I think there's a lot of lip service to that effect about being open and transparent and valuing employees who have varied backgrounds or coming from, outside of, a particular industry and transitioning. So just we'll see. I'm going to throw it out there and see if anyone bites. It'll be available. They don't have to listen to it.
Right.
They might not be interested, but I'm not going to hide it.
I hear
How
you.
about that?
I hear you. Let's just set the stage with what happened with your job because that kind of leads into what you've been doing the last 5 months,
It really does. So I have worked for 10 years in the oil and gas industry. So it's been very, very kind of straight-laced, very corporate roles. So I've always found biking as my kind of release to show my true personality. And about 6 months ago, I knew I was going to get laid off. So I'm like, all right, I haven't had a lot of time to do any bike packing or big adventure or, these self-propelled transits across a continent, if you may. And I
like that.
Yeah. I've always wanted to do a big self-paced adventure. Maybe when I was younger, it was something like hiking the Continental Divide Trail or the PCT. And now I'm like, why would I walk? I can bike a lot faster. I do have some thoughts on that later.
Okay.
But I always wanted to do a trip. So I got laid off and I'm like, all right, it's go time. So I uprooted my entire life in Austin, moved out of my house, dropped off my cats with my dad in Pittsburgh, and I drove to California to kind of start this process where I was not going to look for a job. I was just going to accept the time off that had been kind of granted to me and take advantage of the fact that I had never had the balls to just quit my job before.
Right.
So
It's hard to do.
it's really hard to do. And I would like to think that I could do it now, but now I'm kind of getting back into the real world, and I don't know. I don't know if I have that same desire to uproot. I've found some meaning in the communities that I've built and how much I really, really value them and need them in my life. So I think I'd be less willing to just kind of uproot and say, I want to be a vagabond traveler.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something very romantic about that idea. I've lived in the same town for 41 years, so I am not a vagabond traveler. I travel a lot. I go a lot of places, but I have a home. But I've always had this like romantic idea of kind of, being a wandering man, and being able to go anywhere you want, anytime you want to.
Yeah, I feel that. And I've felt that, my entire life. My family, my mom's side of the family came from Czechoslovakia, and there's a little bit of gypsy, Romanian.
Okay.
And we always joked about it as kids and as travelers and kind of new to the continent and moving around a lot. And it's just my parents instilled this like will to travel and see different places, but they always talked about it and didn't act on it much in my time. So I think they had done a little bit more when they were younger. Like they bike toured for their honeymoon.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, I'm turning into my parents. But
That's an okay thing to follow suit in.
yeah,
We'll allow that.
They're cool people. And you know what? It took me a while to come around.
Yeah.
Back to my transition. So I moved to California, basically. I took a carload of bikes and some adventure gear, all my bikepacking equipment that I had acquired, and just started planning some trips. My first.
Why California? Like, did you know somebody there?
I have some roots in California. I went to grad school out there, and my brother and sister-in-law live there, and my other brother recently moved to Santa Cruz. So I had some family to stay with and bum around, basically kind of do some base camp adventures.
Yeah.
I really like California and Southern California and the mountains. I'm a geologist, and so I've studied the San Gabriel and San Bernardino mountains, and I wanted to do this transit of the San Andreas Fault in the Southern California region, and I'd had a dream of doing that for quite a while. So I planned it out and actually found a route that already kind of followed most of what I wanted to see, and acted on it. And it was my first big like backcountry bikepacking trip, and I just dove right headfirst into a 14-day trip.
14 days.
Yes.
Wow. Solo. Wow.
In the desert with very limited resources.
This is what I wanted to talk about, because I was only watching, through Instagram and didn't know the backstory. I didn't know if you quit or if you got fired. I didn't know what you were doing, but it looked like you were just living on your bike and having the time of your life.
Well, that's good. That's what I wanted to. I wanted to let people know that I was okay. Like I was in a good place. So I didn't want to, I could describe my situation as like, well, I'm homeless, I'm jobless, and I don't know where I'm going in life, and I haven't. But that's really not true. That's the most negative outlook. So, I'm looking for new opportunities and taking advantage of the time and fitness and kind of what I built up for the past 10 years and connections that I have to go out and see the world and do a little bit of the stuff that I've actually been dreaming of doing.
Yeah. Well, it's not like you quit your job, like you said. I mean, you got laid off. So,
yeah. Dude,
when
I'm
life
making
gives
lemonade.
There you go. When it gives you lemons. So, I mean, yeah.
I'm making lemonade.
You gotta take some time for yourself. It's hard to do. And not everybody has that opportunity or privilege to be able to take some time off and be like, okay, I'm going to go do that. But man, if you can, you definitely should. I wish I could.
I might never have an opportunity like this again.
Yeah, not till you retire.
Exactly. And then who knows what shape I'll be in or what even my goals might be. I might, have other priorities at that point. So
yeah. Talk more a little bit how you planned and prepared for that 14-day trip. You said this is like your longest solo bike tour. Like that's a pretty big undertaking. You didn't start with 4 days. You're like, nope, 14.
The planning and prep on that trip was basically watching a video that someone else had posted of the route. I believe the route was called the SoCal Rambler. I found it on bikepacking.com. And I planned out my own little connector route from my brother's house in Palmdale, California, to get up into the mountains and join that route. And I just went for it. I knew that I could just sleep on some pull-offs on the side of the road, on some of these gravel roads. The San Gabriels are extremely steep and rugged, so there's very little opportunity in some places to, find good campsites that aren't already developed. And sometimes, literally, if you're tired and you need to set your head down to rest for a second, you only got like a curve in the road where it's, they've widened it to let cars pass or something like that.
What are the roads like?
There's a lot of Jeep and OHV trails. So I like to tell people that I have pushed my bike up almost every single badass OHV trail in the San Gabriel, San Bernardino Mountains, and San Jacinto Mountains at this point.
Okay.
The route involved crossing some major highways and some major access points. So at one point, it was a Saturday and I was on a super popular, road to some more like gnarly OHV trails, and I got stuck in off-road traffic.
Oh,
yeah,
like Jeeps,
Jeep traffic. Yeah, we're just waiting. There's the road's super narrow. It's a steep drop off on the left. It's steep on the right. There's nowhere to get around, and the last thing you need to be is a bike kind of like weaving your way while these Jeeps are pulling themselves and rock crawling and like attempting features and failing. Right. It takes them a couple times and they're sliding around. The last thing you need to do is be a bike just to kind of add to the chaos. And honestly, it was really inspiring to watch. I had never really appreciated what OHV and taking your big rock crawler Jeep really entailed. Yeah. And how much trust these people have to put into others and how much direction they have to be able to follow. And it was inspiring. So I thought it was just a bunch of like dudes with big trucks that went out and
yeah,
on a rock crawl.
I mean, yeah, there is a lot that goes into it, a lot of money and a lot of time and effort, and a lot of people have to be there to do it. It's
experience and trust to just, if someone tells you to put your wheel left and you just put in a $5,000 upgrade that could get torn off somehow, you got to trust that person because they're the ones who can see. So I found that was very inspiring.
That doesn't appeal to me at all.
No, I wouldn't want to do it.
Trusting other people? What? $5,000 in trusting other people? No.
Yeah.
I'll pedal my $5,000 bike.
But you'd meet these, you get to talking to these crews and they're like, yeah, we've been doing this together for 20 years.
Oh,
or,
wow.
We come out here every Memorial Day weekend or whatnot, or the third weekend in June or something. And, they've been doing it forever. And, bum a beer, I got lots of hand ups. It was wonderful because they're like, you're on a bike. That is so cool.
Well, hell yeah.
Yeah.
And you're out there by yourself.
Yeah. I got hand ups to refusal. I'm like, I can't take any more water. It's like, oh, I can't have another beer right now. It's like, I got 30 more miles and 5,000 more feet of climbing to do today, dude.
Thank you though. Thank you.
Yeah.
Did you have any fears about doing it solo, being a female? Did you have any issues?
No.
Scariness?
No, I did not have any fears about being out there solo. The only thing that ever crossed my mind was mountain lions, because they're kind of scary and you don't really see them coming. So, and if they want to stalk you, they're going to stalk you, and there's not a whole hell of a lot you can do about it.
Yeah.
So I did end up seeing some mountain lion tracks, and I did run into a Forest Service ranger at one point who said, it's like, oh yeah, no, that area, like that mountain, that's where we see our mountain lions all the time when we're out here. So it's like, glad you didn't camp there. But I've never had bad, like, weird or off experiences traveling alone, either on that trip or this summer, or just even throughout my other kind of biking adventures and whatnot. I don't have a lot of fear about being a solo female. I fear for my bike sometimes when I'm traveling, but me as a person,
like someone stealing it or something.
Yeah, or just I forget my lock a lot, or I just don't have one, and I end up employing the helmet lock. Which I will say, when you try to roll your bike away with your helmet locked to your wheels, it really is effective. I've done it to myself quite a few times.
That's what I'm picturing. I'm picturing you coming out of a gas station and like rolling away and be like, shit.
Yep, that's exactly
God
exactly
damn it,
what's
not again.
happened.
I fooled myself. I wonder why. Do you know where that comes from? Do you just
I think it's a confidence, just a confidence that I've had.
probably
and built
helps
and
if
built
you
up.
have confidence that it's, it's like dogs smell your fear or whatever. It's like you feed into that to some extent. But if you're like not fearful and you don't present yourself as a target or whatever.
Yeah, and I think I generally believe that most people either want nothing to do with you or have goodwill for the most part. And there's a lot of things that a simple conversation can just resolve if there are any like weird feelings, where you get the idea, hey, maybe they don't want me here, so I'll leave. But specific examples of feeling like threatened, I don't have any. And I'm a 35-year-old female, and I don't have them.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm totally oblivious. I don't know, because I have plenty of friends who have these stories. And
I talk to a lot of females that don't have issues. Some may have fears or concerns, others may not. But I think you're right. I think by and large, most people are experiencing the outdoors and bike trips and tours and stuff without any issues. But it is a fear that some people have. And so I think it's worth talking about.
yeah, no, definitely. And I totally understand where those fears come from. And I don't know what sage words of advice I could really give people, other than, when you look around, look like you own the place and you belong there and you
Yeah.
know what you're doing, even if you have no bloody idea where
Right.
you are, where you're going to eat, where you're going to sleep. Just own it.
Yeah. I think that's a great advice. Don't like present yourself as a victim in any way, especially if you don't need help, if you want to be left alone, present yourself in a way that you want to be left alone. Nope, I got it. Yep, know exactly where I'm going. Yep, got my food, got my water. Yep, been here 1,000 times.
Exactly,
Yep.
exactly. No, I don't need a ride to the top of that mountain.
No way. I pedaled all the way here. I'm going to pedal, I think
Yeah.
that's great advice, having just it's some confidence and present yourself in a way that you know what you're doing, you're capable, all those things. Yeah.
Exactly. I like to tell, if someone asks me hey, you need a ride up that mountain after, you're riding up a gravel road, they might see me walking if it's steep or something, and they'll stop to chat. And like, hey, you want to ride? I'm like, no, I'm exactly where I want to be and plan to be.
Yeah.
And they usually just say, all right, ma'am, you have a nice day. And trundle off on their way, and I go my way.
Trundle off on their way. I like that. I say the same thing. I'm exactly where I want to be.
Yeah.
That's a great response to anybody that's like, you need anything? Like, nope, I'm exactly where I want to be.
Yeah.
It's a good answer. So being right where you want to be in the San Gabriels.
Yes.
What was the good parts? Tell us how it went. So obviously there was nothing. I tried to get some drama out of you. That was no good. So no, I'm kidding.
I think the drama was in the effort, and I had to basically. I started off with a bike with gears that I didn't really want to be doing the ride in, but at that point I had a very small window where I thought I could reasonably finish this route before I had to catch a train to go meet someone in Bellingham, Washington, to do a different tour. So I had a specific amount of time. I'm like, I can't wait around for this part to get here. So I set off, and it ended up just being I had to walk a little bit more of the climbs that I should have been able to pedal up, which is fine. And I had to accept that mentally. I set off, not really knowing what the grade of the roads was going to be. So I didn't know how much walking. I had no concept of, what an appropriate distance and/or amount of climbing per day would be for me. So I had a vague recommendation from, bikepacking.com on the amount of days it might take, but I knew I was going to deviate because I wanted to go see some specific rock outcrops that I had visited or studied as part of grad school field trips, or canyon.
Styrations.
What?
Styrations?
I don't.
That's not the right word.
Stylolites?
Damn it. I was gonna try to come with a geography. Okay, let's.
It's okay.
Striations.
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 Striations. Oh, yes. There were some. I was
I know
definitely
one
looking for
word.
fault-slicking lines and got really, really hyper excited.
Geology is cool though. I was married to a geologist whenever you and I first met,
Yes.
and so she obviously we talked about rocks, and she kind of educated me on a lot of geological features and just understanding geology in general. And it's a fascinating topic if you want to understand like how the earth was formed and these mountains and everything.
I think every bikepacker should take a geology course, and specifically a geomorphology course. And what you might learn at the end of the day is when you've had a bad day, or if it's been a really rough day, or it's been a sandy, wet, muddy day, if you've been pushing your bike, what geology teaches you is how and why the landscapes that you've just spent your blood, sweat, and tears traveling across look the way they do. And it's just that little bit of extra understanding and depth. So depth of an appreciation maybe of the terrain you have just crossed and maybe what's gone into it. So
Just connects you more to the land that you're riding through,
Yeah.
So I have a proposal for you.
Ooh.
This is an idea that I've been percolating for a while, and with COVID, everything's been kind of crazy. But we just did the East Texas Showdown. We tested people, so now I'm like, that went really well, and now I'm like gearing up to do all these other things. But one that I want to do, and I've is at Big Bend Ranch, either state or national park, either one of them. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna at different points along the ride or at the end of the day, have people there like you, like if you wanted to come and stand in the solitario and give a presentation on like how the solitario was formed and like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
I
So
would be so into that.
Right. I think people will too. And my whole idea is like gaining a greater appreciation. So we could have like you come, we could have a astronomer come, and
You could have a cultural person there.
That's the other one. Yeah,
Yes.
cultural. There's a lot of historicity there in that region. I mean, tons. So I
Did
think
you just say historicity as in from like Isaac Asimov's Foundation series?
I don't know.
I think you did. When I was growing up, I wanted to be a future historian because I didn't know that wasn't a real thing.
Wait, what?
Historicity. I think that was a term that I might be completely off on.
Tell me, I'm curious.
I think.
Did I make up a word?
No, I think a word was put into our lexicon in the 60s or 70s, whenever Isaac Asimov started writing science fiction, and it's just been adopted into it. Historicity is like the cultural feeling behind an object. So,
or a place, maybe
a place.
like
if
the
an object has
historicity
been
of
used a lot. I might be completely off on this. I
This
don't
is
know.
interesting.
I
This
don't
is when we
know.
need a Jamie, like on Joe Rogan, to like Google stuff for us.
Yeah. Because I'm wondering now. I'm like, am I confusing two words together?
I don't know.
I don't
Everybody's
know.
gonna go Google it though. We'll find
Oh
out.
gosh.
We'll find out. Hey, now your future employer is like historicity. Let's go back. Was she right or wrong? That'll be the. It's like, yeah, she's tough, but can she remember facts? Dun,
Oh,
dun,
gosh.
dun. I don't know. It's a fancy way of saying the history.
Yeah.
Definitely fancies it up.
It definitely does, and
Yeah,
it
I try to
applies
be
a little bit
fancy.
more.
Yeah. Well, I'm a high school dropout. Never went to college, so I try to use big words to, negate that. Yeah.
I was impressed.
Yeah. I'm gonna drop some stuff on you.
I was impressed. I'm like, oh man, that's a term I haven't read in a while.
But that's the whole idea, is like experiential writing, like learning. It could be a lot of things. It doesn't have to be the same thing every time. You could do it in different regions, like it wouldn't just be in Big Bend. It would be like, okay, now we're going to go here and we're going to learn this. We're going to go here. We're going to learn about that, and like, and
I think people would be super into that.
Yeah.
Really,
I think
really
so,
into that.
too.
It's a type of like ecotourism, and you're just adding some educational educational aspects to it.
I just value, I think I'm this way. You are. We're talking about it. It's like you ride through the places, and whenever you can like understand how it was formed, or how this river came through, or how this rock pushed up, or the people that developed it before you came, or anything, you know, I mean, I'm drawn to those things. It's I want a greater appreciation and understanding for the natural world. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm a high school dropout. I didn't go to school to get an education, but I'm insatiably curious. I have an appetite for curiosity, and whenever I like hone in on something, I'm like, I want to know everything, you know. And the natural world is big, so I got a lot of work to do.
There are so many things to learn, and I know for a fact people will be interested in a geologist just popping up. This summer, somewhere on the Wild West tour, when I went off route in Utah, I went to see some dinosaur tracks. It was just this big bench that had, I think they estimated like 10,000 tracks. I forget the name of it. Maybe I'll get that later. But I was out wandering around. I had dropped the bike, and I was looking for tracks, and I found a bunch, but I was looking for these tail drag marks. And I round a corner, and all of a sudden I see some other people there, and I could hear them talking. They're like, we don't know what we're looking for. It was one of those sites where there were no like interpretive signs or anything. It was BLM. It was just literally like you could Google it, and it's just like dinosaur tracks, and then no more information. And they were disappointed. And I pop out from behind a rock, and I'm like, I can help you. I'm a geologist. Let me show you where these tracks are and what to look for. And, you know, it just took about 5 minutes of a little bit of coaching to show them what was natural in the way the rock was eroding and what was not, what was some sort of imprint of a dinosaur track. And then you could see the moment where they saw them, and it clicked and it connected. And they're the ones who actually found the tail drag mark. So I was super proud of them. I thought they were, you know, a success in field education.
Yeah, I've tried to find dinosaur tracks before, and they're hard.
They're hard. They're hard. It's pattern recognition, and unless you know what pattern, you don't know what you're looking for.
I didn't even know you could see a tail drag. That's surprising.
I didn't either, and I had left that morning it was outside of Escalante, Utah, and I had set out on a route. I'm like, I'm going to go see those dinosaur tracks, and then I'm going to, you know, continue on my way back to get back finally on the Western Wilds route. And I got totally waylaid that day by those dinosaur tracks, and ended up, heading just back to Escalante and calling it a loop day.
Was that on your tour, or was that a separate trip?
It was on my tour. My tour.
Do you know how the Solitario was formed? I do.
So I know there's a lot of really big structural features out at Big Bend, and Big Bend Ranch State Park is pretty different than Big Bend National Park, and I am not familiar with it.
Yes.
so that's exciting. That's exciting for me to go learn.
Yeah. Well, I really want to do this. Maybe this can be your new job. We'll develop this program.
I think I can guess. I can make 2 guesses.
Okay, go.
It's either a meteor impact crater or a salt dome.
It's where North and South America collided, where the 2 land masses came together. And that's where like I don't know. You like look it up, but I just read the thing on the sign, you know, like the dummied down version. It's like the pamphlet. It's like 3 sentences long. It's like North and South America collided here. I'm like, sweet. No, but there's obviously that's and
I guess I should preface, I don't know what the Solitario is.
Oh, okay. Have you been to Big Bend or no?
I've done one trip to Big Bend, and it was a very quick trip for a New Year's kind of celebration in the desert. And we did go do a little bit of mountain biking, but I was in a little bit of a different place, and I hadn't done any research or planning prior to the trip. So
yeah,
I was experiencing it.
Yeah. So, well, let me tell you then, there's a 100-mile route. This one's published on bikepacking.com too. There's 2, this one's in the state park, and it's called The Other Side of Nowhere. And so the Solitario is a 6-mile dome on the north end of this loop, essentially. And so you literally like ride your bike up, and it's kind of like a crater. It looks like a big meteor hit, but you ride up into Solitario and then down into it. And the diversity of geology there is insane. Like all of the rocks on the ground are different shapes, sizes, colors, everything. You know, the rock facing around you is all like diverse and interesting. And it's just, you could like, I don't know, you could stand in one place and like look down at the ground for like an hour and not see everything, you know?
Oh, that
It's like,
sounds fascinating.
it's one of the best places in the world. And so anyway, but there's a bike route. I mean, it's 100 miles. That's the whole idea, is like, that's what I want to do is ride people through that terrain and like learn about it. My buddy, my best friend Ryan, he was a park ranger there at Big Bend. He and his wife lived out there. So then bring him to teach some of, like, he knows all about the plants and animal life. He's a biologist, a wildlife biologist. So yeah, I think we could do something kind of fun with that.
I think people would be really into it.
Yeah.
I really do. I think there's enough interest out there.
We'll start studying. Better get a book on Big Bend.
I'm on it. I'll be caught up and learned up in no time.
How does that work? I mean, essentially, like, you have a fundamental understanding of geology, and then it would just be applying that to the region or whatever, kind of.
Yeah, doing a little bit more basic research, understanding kind of you always start small. Actually, no, you start big with what are the big concepts. The stuff that you read on interpretive signs. So you kind of learn, like, what age are the rocks? What am I looking at? Is this a landscape formed mainly by, what type of rock? Or is it igneous? Is it igneous province, sedimentary? Are we looking at a big metamorphic zone? And then kind of the processes around what shaped the surface. So we call that geomorphology, and the shape of the landscape. So if we're in is an active fault zone or something. So are we actively uplifting mountains like the San Bernardinos in Southern California? So everything's super steep. Or are we, in a much more gentle seismic area, or we don't have a lot of movement somewhere like the Appalachians, or, the center of the United States in the Mid-Con. So and I like to just pick a feature and then dig really far into that one feature and then just branch out from there. So maybe there's, like you said, this Solitario feature. I would start there and then just use that as my hub and branch out and then just explore all the little rabbit holes. Yeah.
There's a lot to explore there. I have a geological map on my wall at home, actually. It's mostly, I can't read it, but if you ever visit, you can maybe read it for me. But it's just really pretty. It's a huge map, and it has all these like different colors indicating different types of rock, I guess. Yeah. And,
when I've seen the cross sections across the Big Bend area, they are very different depending on where you are looking. So I know that the geology is quite diverse.
Yep.
I just never have had the opportunity to study it in depth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I was saying, the natural world is big. So it's like, people will be like, oh, you haven't been there yet? You haven't done that? I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of shit I haven't done, man. Like, I'm trying, but God, the world is big.
I feel the same way. And it's like, instead of focusing on where people haven't been, ask them where they have.
Yeah.
They're going to have a lot more to say. You're going to take away more from that interaction than talking about a place they should go.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of in the business where people are going to share their opinion with me. So I think, but I totally get with what you're saying. Like, if you're just talking to someone, be like, well, you haven't seen that movie? It's like, oh, wait, what is your favorite movie?
Yeah. Like, it's a get a deeper connection with people.
For sure. Well, let's wrap up your San Gabriel trip, because I want to talk about, obviously, the East Texas Showdown, because you were the slowest, and that is hard to do. And I appreciate your humor, or your
so
you're getting mine.
So I set out on the SoCal Ramble and the San Gabriels and San Bernardinos.
I'm sorry to real quick. What did bikepacking.com rate this route as, and what did they recommend, like, the days to do it? Do you remember?
No, I do not
Okay.
know. I don't know if I looked at a rating.
You're,
I probably
you're
did if if I saw it, I probably just didn't care.
huh.
To be honest,
You're fascinating.
like I have a strong confidence in my ability of understanding that particular terrain, and the hazards.
Okay.
So I would have put my own experience in those mountains first
Okay.
in a rating.
So you have a high level of familiarity.
Yes.
All
So
right.
I really just didn't care what other people had to say about it.
Okay.
For a difficulty, because I didn't want to hear about.
I was starting to think that, let's say you go into an area you completely don't know. Would you do more research? Or do you kind of like the adventurous, like, I'll get a general thing and then go, like?
I do like the adventurous.
Yeah.
So this summer when I did the Western Wilds route, I did follow, I followed the route and, used the app, and I was looking at the given information for most of my planning. And by the time I got to Utah, I was, more familiar with that area. And I knew that there were things that were way off route that I was more interested in going to see. And I didn't do much planning. I did it all on the fly. And I just went off and did my own thing. And actually, I specifically, I had a really wonderful moment where I was listening to this podcast, and it was the episode with Jessica Alexander. And I think you had asked her a very similar question about planning and packing and prepping. And I had been in the middle of pushing my bike up a cobble road for like an hour and a half. And I just had a hysterical laugh and breakdown. And I'm like, yeah, this is why people do a little bit more research about what they're getting into.
Oh, that's so
Just
funny.
yeah, I can see how this would be unappealing to some people. They might not have wanted to come this way.
What was your takeaway, though? You're just like, man, this is what I signed up for?
Yeah, I knew what I was getting into for that particular location. So I think I just have a high tolerance for pushing my bike up things. I've always had that approach with mountain biking in general. It's like you can always walk it.
Yeah.
So I don't really mind, and that's sometimes the only way you can go. It's the only way forward. You can't just, if you can't ride it, you can't ride it. There's no use bitching about it. You just gotta walk.
Well, when I met you, do you remember the first time we met?
Yeah, I remember I showed up almost, it was to, what is it called? The burning hour, 6-hour burning race. It was at Warda. It was a 6-hour race at Warda.
Burning Saddle?
Burning Saddle.
Yeah, 6-hour Burning Saddle.
Yeah, 6-hour race. And I showed up late and didn't know where to camp or something. And I ended up camping right outside your trailer. You guys were so nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I think we were some of the first people you met. Or didn't you just moved to Austin?
I think I had.
That week or something?
It was either that week or the previous week. So I didn't know anyone.
It was pretty wild. So through happenstance, met you right when you moved to Austin when we were both kind of in endurance racing.
Yeah.
And people that listen to the podcast like that, that's how I kind of got into bikepacking, because I learned about bikepacking. I was gravitating more towards liking the longer distances. And then I learned about bikepacking. I was like, oh, snap. What about you? Because the interesting thing is we've both, we've known of each other and kind of, but we haven't, hung out a whole lot or anything to where we've been influencing. It's
yeah.
Or you know what I'm saying? It's
it's the periphery of different circles.
Yeah, we've just naturally gravitated in the same direction to bikepacking and gravel riding and stuff like that. So how did that transition happen for you?
Well, I started gravel. It came from two areas. I started gravel riding back in Oklahoma when I lived there, and that was
pretty much out of necessity.
Out of necessity. I like to say I could have, I had a mile of road, and then I had all of Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado, if I even wanted it. I could have rode to Denver on gravel roads. I could have just left and righted it the whole way there from my location in Oklahoma City, which I really, really loved. That was quite a way to explore the place. And that was back in 2011, 2013, something like that. And there were some state parks that were, about an hour's drive, maybe 60 miles. And I'm like, I could link these up. I could just ride there. And I don't know if this was before or after I had seen the documentary Ride the Divide. And I remember mentioning to some people hey, what if we just ride our bikes to Roman State Park. And I got the deadpan, like, you want to do what? You're crazy. So honestly,
You
I
said
dropped.
this to cycling
Yeah,
friends?
I said this to cycling friends, and it fell on some flat ears. And so I didn't, like, oh, okay, whatever. I wasn't at that point. I wasn't interested in doing it alone, and I was super into cross country racing. So, I'm like, I'll just go ride. I'll ride with friends for the weekend, and we'll
Yeah.
bang out some fast miles, and continue down that path. And then, later I started doing more of the really long endurance rides. I started 24-hour racing, 6-hour racing, 12-hour, you name it, either as, solo or parts of teams. And I realized I like the long rides. I'm kind of good at it. Like, damn, where can this go next? What can I do next as an adventure? And then I kind of came back to bikepacking after I, saw some friends doing that. I'm like, hey, wait, I wanted to do that a while ago,
Yeah.
but maybe I can find some other people to go do it with now.
Right.
And I just kind of fell into it that way. My very first trip was a 6-day trip in Pennsylvania.
What year?
That would have been 2020.
Okay. So pretty soon.
Yeah.
Pretty recent.
I did my first trip, and I
Wow.
biked from Pittsburgh to Washington, D.C., and about halfway back to Pittsburgh.
On a rails to trail?
On the rails to trail,
That's awesome.
on the Gap.
Those are great.
Oh my God. I recommend that trip to anyone
I
who
wanna
is
do it
interested
so
in
bad.
it.
I want to do it with the kids,
Yes, it is. It's easy. It's flat. It's beautiful.
Oh,
And the
yeah.
services, there's water.
Mhm.
Along the C&O Canal path, there's campsites every 20 miles. You don't have to make a reservation. There's plenty of room for multiple people to show up. It's logistically really easy. What's hard about it is that it's humid and you're wet and you can get sandy. So it might not be the most comfortable. I think I enjoy bikepacking in the desert a little bit more because I don't like being sweaty and sandy and wet and soggy for 6 days. That trip ended up, my dad had to come pick me up because I had been wet for too long, and it was the tail end of a hurricane had been coming through. So it was downpouring. And at this point I realized, hey, I'm not going to make it to work tomorrow. I need to become picked up.
Did you have PTSD at the beginning of the East Texas Showdown when it was raining? Like, oh no.
A little bit, because I'm like, oh, this is going to hurt. This is going to feel really disgusting to put those wet clothes on tomorrow, because they knew they weren't going to dry overnight anywhere, no matter where I camped. So
No, because it's humid. I mean,
Yeah.
it's even if it was sunny, it would still be humid and they wouldn't dry out.
Exactly. I don't know if we want to jump into the East Texas Showdown, but I have some.
What else?
So I think we were still talking about my Southern California.
Yeah.
My Southern California tour. I'm not sure. That was it. It feels like so long ago since I've done quite a bit since then.
I know it is kind of hard to keep up with. That's why I'm like, no. It's cool. It's like, man, you did a lot in a very short amount of time, because if you did that was a Pennsylvania trip in 2020.
Yes.
Yeah. And since then
I've done about 4,000 miles of bikepacking this year.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Thank you for making that easy on me. I didn't know there was going to be math.
I didn't realize it until I started adding it up and realized the East
insane.
Texas Showdown that put me past that 4,000
I know what I was
mark.
going to ask you. Did you have any camping experience going into this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I have had a lot of camping experience. My family was super into camping. I grew up with 2 older brothers and Boy Scouts.
Right.
So we
Where'd
were
you grow up?
I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I love the forest. Forests are my feel-good place. And, we were, as a vacation or as family vacations, we're always, let's go backpacking somewhere, or let's go camping, let's do something outside. So I grew up with that, just kind of, that was knowledge that was pushed on to me from a very young age. And I think that definitely plays a role in my confidence in, being a solo female traveler in the woods. I just feel like, I know how to take care of myself. Even if I really don't, I know how to pretend.
And having a comfortability being outside in the woods by yourself helps. at the East Texas Showdown, there was a guy there, and he said I could talk. I don't even remember his name right now, but he was afraid of the dark, and he told me about it before, like Thursday night. I was like, man, how you feeling today? He's like, well, I'm afraid of the dark, and like he's just straight up told me. I'm like, well, I've known plenty of people that are afraid of the dark. And he was like, I know there's nothing out there that could get me. I just got to like talk myself through it. But I mean, he was like facing that fear,
Wow.
like going out there. And
Did
so,
he
I mean,
overcome that? Did he ride at night?
he did.
That is
Yeah. Yeah. He
awesome.
finished. Yeah. Shout out, man.
That
I
is
mean,
awesome.
but those are real fears that people have, whether it be like from people or from animals, bugs, snakes. I mean, all the little, chigger. I mean, there's lots of like little stuff, and there's accidents that could happen when you're alone. I mean, there's.
It's really easy to mess up in the dark.
Yeah.
It's,
and a lot of people wrecked in the dark at the race. I mean,
oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Because those up on the northern part of it, I don't know if you rode it during the day or night, but wherever it's really hilly, at the bottom of those hills, a lot of times it's sandy, and so they would be going fast, but they couldn't see, and so, everybody said they had a safe landing, in the nice sands.
Wow. I had no idea there were people there who didn't know, or who were afraid of riding in the dark, or who just had never done it before. It's a different experience. You think about it, you have this one beam of light, or even if you have several sources, your view of the world has just narrowed down by, however many degrees, and you can only see, a couple 100 feet ahead of you. And depending on how bright you're running your lights, and, you can't tell what's making that noise off to the left, or what might be shining its eyes looking back at you. It can be very disturbing, especially when you don't see something, or when you hear something and can't see it, or just.
So we talked about this last night. I interviewed Nick and Kyle, and we were talking about how the importance of having a headlamp, so you can look at. If you hear a noise, actually like look and see what it is, but
or
also
look through a turn
or whatever. Also, your world becomes very small.
Yes,
your world goes, and then like it'll get big again if you keep riding, and then it gets small. It's a very interesting experience because you're like, you don't know how fast, you don't know how long the downhill is going to be or the uphill is going to be. You just don't know. You don't know what to expect. So just live in the moment 100%.
Live in the moment and try to remember what predators are in this area.
And try to believe that you're the biggest, baddest one.
Yeah, and you know what? Most of the time you are.
Most of the time you are.
You really are.
Especially in Texas, man. There's really not a lot you have to worry about in Texas.
Yeah, it's.
We don't have bears. We don't have cougars. I mean, foxes aren't going to do. I mean, coyotes. They're not going to do anything.
Yeah, but as far as I could tell, there were no toddlers out, riding their bike in the middle of the night at the Showdown. So
no one brought their baby.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear the story about the dingo ate my baby?
Yes.
Yeah. That's what it made me think of. I listened to a whole podcast on that.
Oh, wow.
What a wild story.
I guess to wrap up Southern California, I kind of ironed out all the kinks and kind of what I needed to be mentally for mental toughness. And then I could go kind of full bore. I knew what to plan for a much longer route and what was kind of appropriate for my riding style and what I was looking to get out of the Western Wilds route, which, how many days to plan for, to keep it fun. Because I didn't want to do something like that I wasn't trying to finish it in a specific amount of time. I wasn't trying to set a record. I wanted to experience it, ride with my head up instead of my head down, worried about the time and like waypoints and, when am I going to make that? Or, I need to be here so I can hit this day goal.
That's my favorite way to ride.
Hands down, mine too. I get so much more out of the experience. But again, right now my perspective is that I don't have a job, so I'm not on a timeline to get back to the real world. So I am very grateful that I can ride the way I prefer to ride right now.
It's a nice mating call.
Yeah, they were hanging around earlier. I was hoping he wouldn't come back.
It's like some kind of gull.
Wow.
Gull?
That's fun. Okay, so you wanted me to transition to the East Texas Showdown, or
Well, I mean, is there anything else to hit on? I mean, it's hard to like wrap that. I run into this issue all the time on the podcast. Like, how do you wrap up like
well,
4,000 miles?
so it is hard because everyone leaves an experience like that or a set of experiences with things that they didn't achieve. There's always things left on the table. I feel like as a society, we're always trying to people who are driven to bike pack probably are pretty driven in other areas of their life too, where they want to get more done. So just, focusing on what you did do. And it's like I met a lot of really amazing people, amazing business owners all over the West. I made some lasting friendships, just trying to focus on really what you did do instead of what you didn't. And so would you do it again? Yes. Hands down. I think I would do a few things differently. Maybe take a little less items. I had a few luxury items. I had too many shirts. I had 3 shirts and I would only take 1.
You're like, who are you dressing up for?
Yeah, right?
The rock crawlers?
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, I think, I'll sound like a broken record on the podcast, but I mean, it's if you learn from anything, any shortcoming, whether it's failure or whatever, it's just a learning experience. And so it's not ever a negative thing because it just means that next time you're going to be more prepared, more capable, more ready, all those things.
Exactly. It's this weird combination of turning off like this data-driven mind that we all have to just be an experiential mind.
Yeah.
And then, flip back to that data mind at the end to figure out, okay, how can I do it better?
In that vein, I think, everyone is different, but for me, I find that, turning off the technology, other than like a line that you're following or whatever, but to turn off that data mind and get it more into like an adventure mind. If you're, we'll talk about racing in a second, but if you're just out touring and enjoying the experience, that's a really good way to, and like turn off the music and stuff.
Oh, I love the music.
I listen to music and I listen to podcasts. I listen to audiobooks.
Yeah.
But I also turn all that off and I'll just ride, just listening and just being in the moment. I mean, if you're on a long bike tour, it can get boring, it can get lonely. Those are also realities that,
yes.
you're alone.
You're alone,
So
you're struggling, you're hurting, you're hungry, you might be thirsty and you don't have enough water. I want to
throw on a Bikes for Death podcast and feel like you got some company.
Yeah.
What do you listen to on bike tours? That's always interesting.
Oh, I have a playlist of basically like my favorite songs that I, started liking on Spotify. So it's all over the place. Anything from like pirate sea shanties to that's what I was listening to when I finished the East Texas Showdown. Or like EDM dance music or like this really soulful jazz. Just kind of like music that moves me emotionally and physically to, push through some hard spots. It definitely helps me. And I encourage everyone to kind of like have a playlist they can, if they're feeling down, just music can change your mood and the way your mind works.
Yeah.
So it could just be that little extra kick you need to push through something sometimes. And then you're fine.
Rage Against the Machine. If you need like the ultimate jolt, if you are like about to fall asleep at 4 a.m. and you just need to make it 5 more miles, Rage Against the Machine.
I will put some Rage on my playlist. My metal music preferred metal music is Slipknot.
Okay. I don't know. I know of them, but I'd have to. I'm sure it'll work just the same.
It's loud. It's more loud music.
I can see Beastie Boys being good.
Yeah, Beastie Boys would be wonderful.
Yeah. No, I'm all about. Listen, there's different times and different places, and if you're on your bike for 14 days, you're gonna be in different headspaces and want to have different experiences throughout that whole time. What podcast do you listen to? You listen to this podcast?
I listened to this podcast while I was bike packing. I found I thought that was some sort of like cool meta relationship. It was like a nice spiral to be bike packing and then listen to other people talk about their bike packing experiences. And
Yeah.
it definitely helped me if I was feeling low or just wasn't feeling like I was, if it wasn't just the best day possible, to kind of push through those hard spots, or if I'm walking or it's got really sandy or hot, just hearing how other people kind of overcame more specific, like, what their hardships were and how they did it. I just found it very inspiring because you have really interesting people on this podcast.
Well, thank you. I
Yeah.
really appreciate that. It's so weird because I just put a podcast out there and I know it's well received, but I don't like really, I don't get to hear, or don't get to know how people are using it. Like, are they listening it to at work? Are they listening to it on a bike ride? Are they, using it as an inspirational tool during a race or a tour? So that, like, my hope is that it is a source of inspiration for people that will motivate them to either go and do, or while they're doing. But I mean, that's like best case scenario. And so the fact that it served that purpose for you while you were riding your bike, I mean, it warms my heart, because that's like 100%. If there was a mission statement or like a number one goal, that would be it. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
What were some that like stood out to you? Do you remember?
This Sarah Swallow.
She's good.
For sure.
Yeah.
Hearing her describe her strategy for the Tour Divide this year, and just how she just had a plan and executed it. And she stuck to her plan and rode her race, and it worked out for her. And that's how she achieved her goal. Seth from Stillwater, Dr. Seth Wood, because I met him when he was right after he recovered, I think, when he first started riding gravel, after he had gotten that bike from District Bicycles. And I actually think I had literally been riding along the side of the highway without my helmet on, and I stopped to put my helmet on again, and promised myself that I'd wear the helmet if I was on a road, because by that point I had ditched it, and it sat on the edge of my handlebars as a container for extra Gatorade bottles or water bottles that I needed, or just like snack items that I bought on a whim that didn't really fit, or I didn't want to get crushed. So that was pretty impactful as a reminder, like, oh my gosh, at any moment someone else, my life and body can be in someone else's control without really me knowing. So
Yeah.
that was really impactful.
Yeah. Yeah, on me too. That one impacted a lot of people. I really appreciate it.
It's an amazing recovery story.
It's an amazing,
it's inspirational.
It's an amazing story. And then also like just about also the cycling community and how they like adopted him, and I don't know. It's the whole thing is it's one of the, I can't wait to go back. That whole crew up there is just there's something in the water in Stillwater.
Gosh, I miss those people. So when I lived in Oklahoma and Oklahoma City, and we started riding gravel in Stillwater, and I met the best people. It's a particularly like cohesive group. They got a lot of really good energy going on, and I'll never forget the first time I heard my friend Cleo, she was talking about this land run race she did, and I'm like, that sounds so cool. And we're like, we got to do that next year. And just seeing that whole culture build and grow it was really cool. I was pretty sad to leave. I left a lot of really good people in Oklahoma City and Oklahoma when I came down to Austin.
You keep moving. You gotta.
I'm on the road. I'm ready to put down some roots somewhere finally.
No idea where yet, huh? Gotta wait for that job.
No idea where. Well, let's jump into the East Texas Showdown, because that's the most recent, and I think I have a lot to write. I have a lot to say about my Western Wilds tour, but I don't know if we have time to really go into it. And honestly, I'm still processing some of that trip. So.
Yeah. Well, why did you sign up for the East Texas Showdown?
I wanted to race. I missed going fast. Fast is fun. I'm a firm believer in that. And like the faster you can accomplish something, sometimes you have more fun for the after party.
Mm-hmm.
So I really wanted to go. I'm like, I have all this great fitness. This is going to be great. I'm going to this won't be, no, I didn't think it wouldn't be hard, but I thought it would be really, really achievable, and I could
Right.
finish in like a really good state to, be able to hang out and have some beers and meet some other people and
Yeah.
just schmooze around a little bit, because I've been isolated all summer. I've been away from my communities, and so I had this aha moment earlier in like August or July where I'm like, man, I miss the communities that I'm a part of. I miss those interactions and talking about shared interest and having historicity with people.
Nice.
Yeah, I was meeting a lot of people, but I was sick of explaining, or let's see, how do I describe this? I was sick of explaining myself for meeting people for the first time
Right.
consistently. I wanted to have, lasting
Oh,
relationships.
that's Katy. She's this person. Like they know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I wanted to be recognized. Yeah, it means a lot when you walk into a place and you see people and you know people and they know who you are and you know who they are and you have some shared experiences. And then you get more shared experiences. So it's this wonderful cycle. I now understand why people don't leave their hometown. And I honestly, I never did understand that before this summer, because I'm like, there's so many places to go see.
Yeah.
I literally could not connect with that, and now I can. And I think that's a huge point of growth for me.
Yeah. You scratch that itch, and now you know.
Now I know. And now I scratched it enough that I realized
It bleeds
what
a
I
little.
was. Yeah, it bleeds a little, and I wasn't realizing what I was really leaving behind.
Yeah. That's a
So
huge.
sometimes lessons are hard for me to learn like that. I gotta leave it pretty hard to see what I'm missing.
It's funny. I as you're talking, I'm picturing myself. This is exactly the way I operate. Like I always have to find out like the hard way. It seems.
Yeah, I definitely. I feel like I learned it a little bit
Or
of the hard way.
I like experiential learning. Like I want to learn it for myself. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah.
It sticks
I
that
know
way.
that. Yeah, but you really learn it.
Yeah, you gotta. You don't. I don't learn it until I feel it.
Yeah. I relate to that so much.
Yeah. So I wanted to go to the East Texas Showdown. I'm like, I know what that terrain is like. I visited that area before, so it was a location in the United States where I was very comfortable putting my head down and concentrating on the time and the effort and the pace to push myself really hard and not feel like I was leaving other experiences on the table. I could go back and, visit sites, or if there was something interesting to see along the side of the road or historical sites, I could go back. It was close enough, or I didn't feel like it was a once in a lifetime location.
Yeah.
I don't want to just ride past things at this point in my life. I want to, if I'm going to be there and I'm only going to be there once, I better stop and look and take a picture, or, take in the scenery, or talk to the people there, make some friends. So I felt like the East Texas race was a perfect example of a time where I could go share it with people that I knew. I, was familiar with the terrain, and I could just try as hard as I could. Fortunately, I didn't really execute the way I had planned, and that was mostly due to my own fault for running around a little bit too much earlier that week and traveling a little bit too much. I had been in Denver at a conference earlier that week and I had some intestinal issues that stuck with me, and this is now the third race that I have messed up because I was sick earlier in the week and didn't listen to my body say, hey, maybe you shouldn't be doing this. So I think I finally learned that lesson. Like I said, sometimes it takes a while, and got to learn the hard way.
Yeah. The stomach will take you out.
Dude, stomach.
Especially, yeah.
You don't eat, you can't ride hard.
Yeah, endurance efforts whenever you can't take in food or the food's going out is like the calorie. If you can't keep calories in,
Yeah,
it
and
makes
not
it
to
harder.
mention leaning over on a bike is like it does not help your stomach in any kind of like acid bile heartburn situation that's coming up into your mouth.
So how are you? You were feeling not great from the very get-go?
Yes, I was not feeling great, and I was underslept. I was overtired, underslept, and honestly hadn't had enough time when I got back to Austin from Denver to really put my bike together. I was doing it at the venue.
Yeah.
And I realized it was going to be raining for the race the day, like that day, because I had looked at the weather like 7 days prior, and I'm like, all right, I can't focus, like I have to focus on something else completely now. And I couldn't think about the race until like I got back, because it was doing something else in Denver. And I got there, I'm like, okay, this is completely different than everything I had planned for beforehand. So I had everything I needed in the car, and I went with like a super minimal pack kit, which was fine. I just needed to figure out what, that temperature was perfect, honestly.
Yeah.
Where we started off in the rain, and it was still warm enough. You weren't getting cold or hypothermic.
Right.
So that was kind of my worry. It's like, is that cold? Am I going to be hypothermic? Am I going to be cold? Because I've been cold at races before in the rain and gotten hypothermia, and that has been absolutely no fun. I've had to be.
That was the one thing I was grateful for, was it can be cold or wet, but not cold and wet.
Yes.
And so luckily it got up to like in the 80s that day, and never got below, it was still in the 60s like at night. So it was like never too hot, never too cold. It was just a lot of rain.
And during the day, like it wasn't raining at night, which was good. I think that would have changed the story a little bit.
Yeah.
Honestly, I could think of a lot of ways where that first day could have been, I don't even call it a bad day. It was uncomfortable, but I can think of a lot of ways it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
We could have gotten super gnarly, with sticky mud and pushing for like 10 miles and nasty conditions, cold conditions, getting cold. And
everybody seemed to bear the first day totally fine. I think if it kept going on to a second and a third day, I think that would have changed things. But the fact that by the end of day one, there was a sunset, there was stars.
It was beautiful later that day.
Yeah. And so my morale as the race director, I was like, finally. I'm like, because my heart was out there with y'all, obviously. I just felt so bad. I've said this before, but it's like,
baby.
Well, it's like if you're the manager and you ask your employees to clean the restroom, you should also be willing to clean the restroom, right? It's like if you're asking people to go ride that, I should be out there riding it with you, but instead I'm like just directing.
Hey, we chose to be there. That's what it ultimately comes down to, is you didn't force us to do that.
Yeah,
we chose.
I appreciate that perspective, and that's one that everybody took, and nobody blamed me, which I appreciate. No one punched me, which
that's good. That would have been extremely inappropriate. I think people would have stood up for you.
I only got hugs, but you can understand. I obviously felt sympathetic for the conditions, but I mean, not much you can do about it.
No.
Were you able to stay mentally positive through day one, even not feeling good? Any thoughts of not starting or anything like that?
My only thought was that I might not be ready at 8 o'clock to go, because it was raining that morning. It had been raining, it started raining at 3 a.m. and I had been, I was sleeping in my car in the back of my truck. And I was like, okay, it's really loud. So I was basically up at 3, and then it rained on and off, and just trying to get things onto the bike without getting them wet. That was a little bit of a struggle, and I kept on waiting. It might stop in 5 minutes, or you go in and check the radar. It's it's almost over, and I'd rather pack dry things quickly than wet things soggily. I carried a pair of rain pants that were soaked through from the start that I never wore. It was just a pound of extra weight with all the water in them, and they never dried. I'm like, well, that was pointless.
Yeah.
So I never thought of not starting. I just thought that, I might not be quite ready with everyone else. And that was okay, because by that point I knew, I'm really I had a lot of time when it was raining, and I'm not prepared physically for this right now. My body is saying no, and I'm gonna say, let's try it anyway. We're gonna try this.
You may have heard me say this on podcasts before, but sometimes in endurance sports, you just have to say, no, we're gonna keep going, and sometimes your body will agree with you and keep going, and sometimes your body will reject. But there's only one way to find out.
Yeah, you gotta push through.
You gotta just go.
And I think everyone should be doing experiences or activities that really push their limits. You can do so much more than you think you can. 3 years ago, I would have said that I couldn't have done what, the East Texas Showdown feeling the way I did. I would have turned around or something or quit, or, when the bike started failing too with the body, just stopping and not pushing through. So
Yeah.
it's amazing what we can accomplish. It really is.
Did you have any bike failures?
Yeah. To quote the mechanic that I took it to, shit's fucked. Yeah, the calipers, I think on my front brakes are not working, not retracting from they're just not retracting, so they're kind of stuck in this on position.
Nice.
And then I think new cables, I need a new chain ring, new bottom bracket. My rear hub is in need of a rebuild now. It's super loose.
This your Terlingua?
Yeah.
Who do you take it to?
I take it to Melanjani's
Okay.
downtown. I'm used to going there, and I really I've always had really good service and friendly faces there too. And I used to work downtown, so it was really convenient to, if I drove to work that day, I could bring the bike. And often I would ride the broken bike and drop it off in the morning at 7 a.m. because they were open that early, go to work and pick it up at lunch or later that day when I was heading home. So I've always had just wonderful experiences there. And they have a great coffee shop.
I was joking with some other racers that I should be getting some kind of cut from all this extra bike repair that's going up.
Oh, my bike shop in Oklahoma City had a land run special a couple years going on in a row because it's similar conditions.
Yeah.
It's just like, yep, every bike needed the same set of new brakes, new pads.
Yeah. Did you have brakes throughout the race?
I had rear brakes, so I was able to get those working again. I think they just needed some clean out and some constant adjustment. I probably stopped 30 times that first day to try to get my front brakes for my front brakes and rear brakes actually working because they kept on rubbing down. And then I realized the calipers just weren't retracting. So
yeah, we all learned a lot about brake pads and water and sand.
Yeah, it's not a good combo. My future for any races that are, if you have the opportunity to change equipment on your bike before a rainy race, I would say metallic brake pads have the best durability.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Okay, pro tip.
I think that's what I'm going to try to do now. They might be super loud, but they're going to work.
Yeah.
For maybe a little bit longer.
And the cars will see you.
Yeah.
It won't be a bad thing because if you're coming to an intersection, you want them to see you anyway. So might as well make some noise. Let them know you're there.
Yeah.
Coming into Subway hot. Want to get that meatball sub. So where did you sleep on night one?
I slept at the Salmon Lake Campground. I'm not sure what time I made it there. It was after dark, but not too far after dark, I felt like, and people were still up and about. And it was really nice to kind of go take a, rinse off, a quick shower. I didn't have any clothes to change into, but just to, at least get some sand out of the bits,
Yeah.
the its and bits, or try to, and get the sand out of the chamois. Because, you do a sandy race, you're just getting stuff flung up at you all day, and you just end up with sand in every crevice in your ears. And I felt like I was getting sand out of my hair 2 days later.
I really wish you could have been at the end to hear all of the bloody crotch stories that were being told.
Oh.
But there was some funny people were going to make cast for their things and all kinds of funny story. Yeah. Good time. But you weren't alone. I mean, everybody, because you're going to get the sand and everything in your bibs, and rubbing is real.
I bought diaper cream from some gas station because I'm like, I need something.
Yeah. Aquifer. Have you ever tried Aquifer?
I think so. In the past, yeah, I have. Yeah.
That's
your go-to.
Recommend, yeah.
I liked all my little pots. I have a collection of little pots of like ointments and oils now from the summer, and my favorite is Squirrel's nut butter because it's like cocoa butter based and coconut oil based.
It's like a chamois cream.
It's not a chamois cream. It's a Glide cream. They sell it to runners. For the most part, I think is how it's marketed. For chafing,
Okay.
But I really liked it for chamois cream as an ointment based instead of a cream based because I felt like it lasted a little bit longer throughout the day.
I think that's how
it smelled really good.
the one I was saying Aquaphor is. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
whatever works.
Whatever works.
Whatever works. Take care of your bits.
I was to the point
But
where
I think that 120, that Salmon Lake that's what I was telling anybody, because I was seeing people throughout the day and everybody was putting on a happy face. It's like, man, if y'all could just get to 120, there's a shower, you can get cleaned up, there's a place to sleep,
Yeah, that was a great stop. I did feel bad for the guy who rolled in at like 3:30 in the morning and set up camp because it was a little bit loud in the shelter because I think everyone made the mistake of probably sleeping too close to each other. So
Did everybody sleep under that shelter?
I don't think so. There were probably like 10 people though. At least 10 people, I think. It was just, and it was loud on like with a mat straight on the ground and toss and turn. You'd hear someone thrash and then you'd thrash and then you hear someone else thrash around to turn over. Well, someone set up shop at like 3:30 and I'm like, dude, people are getting up at 4. You are gonna hate your life right now or hate your life in about 30 minutes.
I wonder who that was. I can't remember.
I don't know. I never stuck around. I didn't stick around to say hi.
Yeah, I guess everybody slept under that shelter because it wasn't raining, but maybe fear of rain.
I think the ground was still wet. I think
okay.
that's what I remember, and I think there was some dew. Like I didn't have a tent with me. I had a bivvy, so if I could sleep under something that was going to collect dew, if I didn't have to like use my equipment, I prefer to just sleep out as much as I can. So that was the price we paid, and I needed the sleep, and I didn't do that.
So when did you roll out on day 2?
I think around I think it ended up being like 5:30.
Oh wow!
5:30 in the morning. Yeah, because
so you're still
it was
motivated.
impossible to sleep through anyone getting ready. So it was more of you're hearing them getting ready, so you might as well get up too.
Yeah, forced motivation.
Yeah, and then when I got up, I'm like, oh man, my bike, I need to look at my bike with some fresher eyes and make some more adjustments to the brakes. And so I was a little slower to leave. And then I stopped at the donut shop on the way out because they were open at 4:30 in the morning.
Hell yeah.
So I got a coffee, donuts, a kolache. By the way, none of which worked well with the stomach, but I was so excited to try.
I was about to ask.
That was fun. They looked like they were excited to see people.
It sounds really good on a solid stomach, but on a not solid stomach, it sounds like a dangerous combination.
Did anyone else stop at the donut shop?
I don't know. Probably.
I hope so.
Probably.
It was awesome.
I haven't got any other donut shop stories yet. You're the first one.
Oh man.
But I like the donut shop.
Yeah, no, the donut shop. By day 2, I'm like, all right.
I'm sure people did.
I hope so.
A lot of people were taking advantage of, places along route.
Okay, I would hope so. I kind of decided day 2 that I needed to, my going hard was going to be the same as my normal pace that I had done all summer. So I might as well. I'm just like, I should stop and enjoy things, just not try to rush because this isn't going to get done any faster. By rushing for me, I'm just going to end up spending more time on the side of the road dry heaving. So I took my time. I decided from then, all right, let's just try to finish this, which was a very, very pleasant way to go about it.
Yeah.
With taking that kind of pressure off.
That sounds nice. Sounds quite lovely.
Yeah.
Sounds like how I'd want to ride the route.
It was, especially, it really was. Because there was a section shortly after Salmon Lake that was pretty sandy.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one long straightaway that had to walk about half of it. And, there's nothing like walking and pushing your bike when you're in a rush.
Is that the section by that old community center? The sandy section by the old community center?
No. I know it. Oh, yeah, the one that's kind of missing a roof.
Yeah.
No, there was another section before that. I know.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of sandy sections.
There's a lot of those are the 2 sandiest sections, I think. The old community center and this one kind of straight away. Before, was it Elkhart, I think?
Yeah, Elkhart.
Yeah. I saw a lot of other foot tracks.
It depends on who you ask on the amount of sand that was out there. Some people will tell you there's a lot. Other people say it's not as bad.
I'm of the camp there wasn't a lot of sand.
I don't think so.
It was pretty condensed sections of deep.
Guess how many
sand.
total miles you think sand?
4.
I was gonna say 6.
That's pretty damn close of a guess for a 380-mile route.
I don't. Yeah, but
that's within 1%.
They're really bad, I guess. They're really sandy.
Yeah, they weren't. But they weren't. I don't know. I don't think they were really. Nothing on that route was really bad.
What tires did you have?
I think I had WTB Ramblers, and I think they were 45s.
Okay.
I ran whatever the bike shop in Palmdale, California had in stock.
Yeah.
that they could get me in time. So
we get these, and that's it.
Yeah. I was like, well, I want to be comfortable. I didn't want to run like 33s because I'm like, like that area is gonna have a lot of sand, and that's, the narrower tires on cobbles are just, my hands are gonna kill me. And I knew I was already pretty broken, and I had a lot of numbness going on in my hands already, and I didn't want to trigger that. So it's like, let's go for a more comfortable ride, even if it's a little bit slower.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad I did at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I always prioritize comfort personally.
Yeah.
So how did day 2 go?
Well, day 2 was interesting.
It sounded like it was going well. You were going to slow down. It was going to be a nice day.
I started to that's when I started to feel more physical discomfort in my intestines. So that's when I realized, like, I'm just not hungry. And I had eaten very little. I think for the whole trip, I calculated that I wanted to eat about 12,000 calories. And by the end of it, I think I'd only eaten about like 35 for the entire East Texas, for the entire route.
Wait, 35 calories?
3,500, sorry.
Okay.
3,500.
Still,
Yeah,
that's not even a day.
I was significantly under caloried, and I was just nauseous. So I couldn't keep anything down, and I wasn't hungry.
That's bad.
Yeah, not good signs. Not a way to do an endurance event for sure. I blew up my pump. It had cracked, and then so I lost my pump. I couldn't use it anymore. So now I was like basically without a way to fix a flat, which was a little scary, kind of being out there in the middle of the nowhere. So I'm just like, all right, well, let's just ride conservatively and watch for any lips that I could burp a tire on. And then just try to, if I see someone else who has a pump, borrow that and pump up my tires as best as I could. But I finished the ride without a pump.
Yeah.
By that point, or a CO2 cartridge, because I had stopped carrying those long ago. And so my trusty pump failed me, which was not good. And I wanted to quit that day. I really did in the middle. But when we got to Jackson, I'm like, man, I can't figure out how to quit. It's a lot more trouble to quit than it is just to finish the damn race and get back to the car. There's no Uber. There's no one to call. Maybe I was just outside of Jackson and like, there's no hotels. I could set up, camp somewhere, but I'm still going to be in the same situation. I was not carrying like a day's worth of extra food like I had been for the summer. So I was running slim. I didn't have a lot of extra supplies to go around.
Why not get a hotel in Jacksonville?
I was past Jackson by that point.
Oh, okay.
I think I was just past, and when
you started to regret it.
Yeah, it's like, well, okay, if I get a hotel in Jackson, I still have. How do I get home?
Yeah.
I didn't want to be out there for like 5 days or 6 days. I wanted to get it done because I wanted to come back to Austin and get my life back on track. I think honestly, I had a job I needed to apply for that I was really excited to get to.
Yeah.
I wanted to be done. So
yeah, that's fair. Well,
yeah,
you signed up to race.
As I'm hearing myself talk, I'm like, these are not good reasons for not staying in Jackson at all. But race brain. When you're out there, you're not in your normal logical self all the time.
Well, we talked about this last night too, is you kind of like get to sit back and analyze how you did under duress, maybe not even duress, but just like unfamiliar, uncomfortable conditions. And you're like, that was weird. Why did I do that? But you did.
You don't always have a good answer.
You don't always have a good answer.
I think it's really important after you finish an event like this to go back through and kind of think about those decisions. And it's like, what drove that decision? Like next time if I'm, have a situation I need to solve, like, do I need to think about it more, or can I trust that gut reaction? Was that the right call? Did I consider all the options, or like just learning, do I need to take a little bit more time before I make my decision or was I too decisive and maybe jumped in the wrong pool.
Yeah.
Jumping
Yeah,
off the
it's
deep end
weird
a
to
little too
think that you
soon.
could rush yourself when you're going that slow, but you can, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, things are
Yeah.
moving. They can move faster, it seems, than like when you're linking back at it. You're like, man, I really didn't give that the thought I should have probably given that, you know?
Exactly. Like
Just kept on going.
yeah. When you think about, I was pretty vulnerable out there now without extra food and basically no way to pump up my tire.
You had an SOS button.
Yeah.
So where did you stay on day 2?
I stayed at Camp Tejas. I eventually made it there.
Oh, sweet.
I was too tired to remember where you had posted the information about where the campsite was.
Uh-huh.
So I was in the camping loop and I'm like, I don't see anyone. Like, I know people are here,
Uh-huh.
but I didn't want to look on the tracker. I just didn't have enough cell phone service to check. All I could do was see my like cached emails, and I'm like, screw it. I'm just gonna take a regular campsite.
Yeah.
And that was a really good night. I set up and it was really quiet, and I slept like 8 hours, which is what my body needed. And that was good. It's hard to set up camp in the dark, also when you're in a new area.
Mm-hmm.
Looking around, it's hard to read signs.
Yeah.
I didn't have my only light was mounted to my handlebars. So you ride past something, you can't just.
Yeah, that's why you need the helmet lamp.
Yeah, that's why you need the helmet lamp. But I was like, I don't want to carry that extra weight.
Oh my gosh.
And I just had a battery backup to charge my lights and my devices. So I didn't have a dynamo hub on that bike. So I was like trying to conserve electronic use and be mindful of that. So
Yeah, well, you went into it thinking that you were going to do it a little faster, and so you kind of prepared for fast, and then you
was not fast. I was not fast. I was like, all right. I just turned off my phone for the day, which I think I had given that advice to someone else this summer when they were asking, like, for a 24-hour race, how big of a battery backup do they need? And I'm like, just turn off your phone, dude.
Yeah. No backup needed.
Yeah, like why do you need it? Your backup is your phone. That Camp Tejas was wonderful.
Mission Tejas.
Mission Tejas, that's it.
It's a really beautiful campsite. So you got to see it in the morning when you woke up?
Yes, I did. I took my time in the morning.
Yeah, so beautiful.
It was beautiful. I was to that point. I'm like, I can't really rush around. So I got
There's a
up.
good bathroom there.
Yeah.
Take your time.
Take your time. I mean, roll up camp, pack it away right. And do some self-assessment. And as I was rolling out, I actually ran into someone else who had also kind of had the same experience. We're like, I didn't know where anyone else was camping, so they set up in a picnic area. And I ended up riding with Todd throughout that day. He was the guy who finished ahead of me and let you guys know that I wasn't feeling too good, but I was
Todd
still
Nisbet.
out there.
Yeah.
So it was really good to finally meet someone and get some interaction on the course, which I was craving. It was like, man, the reason why I came back here was so I could like share this experience with people,
right?
And not just be in my own head.
So you and him were leaving just happenstance the same time on day 3?
Yeah, he was getting ready to leave. He was
Uh-huh.
still packing up his bike. He had all of his equipment out on the picnic table.
He brought a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I was like, he got a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But he was super cool. He was he was into his story, and he was giving me sage advice about riding in New York City and how he's never ridden out here, and this was his first race. So it was really good to meet someone and connect like that. And then
We had a bunch of first timers do this race. Like a lot of them.
like first time bike backers.
Well, yeah.
That was so cool.
Yeah, it was wild, which was what I wanted. I wanted this to be more accessible for people, like a way to introduce people to pushing their limits, to endurance racing, to bike packing, to all these things, because you can go fast. But what I was thinking as we were talking is like, I made it to where there's some nice resources, campsites where you can, if you want to just tour it, if you want to like take a shower and take your time in camp, it's really kind of a nice way to enjoy it too.
I think you nailed it with the course layout and having those 2 campsites. those distances of like about 120 and then 130 mile day.
Yeah.
Or 140 if you get a little lost in the forest like I did. But I just got a little turned around in the GPS and, biked up and down the same hill a couple times.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure I was headed in the right direction.
All that experiential learning.
Yeah. I think you nailed it with that. This was a great course.
Oh, yeah?
This was a great course for people.
So as a Texan, as a transplant Texan, I mean, you've lived here for a while. You're familiar with Texas, I should say, and riding in Texas. Yeah, you like the route. I mean, that's your biggest fear is you create a route and you're like, I think it's good, but what are other people going to think,
I really commend you for putting that route out there, especially since I know you said you yourself had not ridden the entire route all linked together.
Right.
The pieces, but it's a different beast when it's all synergized and linked. I really commend you for doing that. It takes some balls.
I drove the whole thing.
Yeah, but riding's different when you feel that sand.
Oh,
when you
it's
feel
totally different.
the miles of sand or like squishiness underneath your tires. It's
I'm looking forward to riding it.
You should.
Oh, I'm going to. I was talking to the guys last night, and I don't think we said this on the podcast, but I thought about this afterwards. I need to ride it, but the advantage of a car is that if there's a dead end or a trespassing, which I came into a lot of those, where you think the road goes and it doesn't, and you need to reroute. If you're on a bike, that would have taken. It took me 14 months. 14 months.
Yeah,
to develop that route. I couldn't believe it. I went back because I was writing that article for bikepacking.com, and I was like, when did I make the first ever East Texas Showdown route? It was August of 2020 or
wow.
I was like, holy shit.
14 months in the
making.
And
I've been obsessing over it.
People make humans faster than that.
Yeah. I was doing other stuff too, but yeah. It takes a long time because there's so many pieces of the puzzle, and you'll know that Texas is harder to find remoteness and to like actually get away from people and city centers and all that. It's big, but people are sprawled out here.
I think you did a wonderful job in finding remoteness in an area that is pretty populated. That still had, it was still accessible, as opposed to doing a route, somewhere west where, it's, a little hillier, there's less resources, there's less water. For people, water is always my number one concern. Where how far away are my water stops? What are we looking at? And honestly, on that route, thank goodness we went right by enough little towns that you could get water and you didn't have to rely on surface water because it was nasty surface water. I do not recommend anyone drinking any of that water on the surface or trying to filter it.
I've told people only as an emergency use, but I can't even imagine a scenario of emergency use for it because you could walk your bike somewhere faster and would probably be a better option. But I'm glad. That was the idea, is to get away from the bigger city centers, hop into the little towns, but try to find the most remote rural experience absolutely possible. And as you work your way up north, you get into just more. Did you ride that neighborhood outside of Jacksonville during the daytime? That weird, the one that goes along the lake. It's like
the really hilly one.
It's like a crazy.
Yeah, that was really fun. I rode that with Kyle and Ben.
Yeah.
That was really fun. There's some beautiful houses. You saw some like not monsters, but
there was some with steel beams. I saw some with steel beams, and that's a big house.
Yeah, like that was going to be a big, beautiful.
And then they had some shitty houses.
Yeah,
I was like, what? I want to buy one of those shitty ones.
No, that was a beautiful section.
I thought that was a fun little thing to put on we could have routed around it, but I thought it was just a cool little thing to ride through and see that little tucked away community. I like to see how people live. It's always interesting to.
I do too. You see the transection of how people live in rural areas. That's something I'm really interested in. And I've mostly lived in big cities my life, or in the suburbs of big cities. Right. And you go out to these little areas and like, how do y'all live out here? Like, what do y'all do for work? Mm-hmm. How do you make this work? And I don't think I know. I don't understand yet, but I constantly ask that question when I go to places.
Well, that's interesting.
Like, how do you live here? What's it like? What do you do for fun?
Sit on my porch. I don't know. I think they just enjoy a slower lifestyle, man. I don't know. I really don't know. It is interesting. Maybe as we do more of these, we'll learn more and more. But it is fun to, I mean, I'll pop into those gas stations and talk to the people, and they're just like hanging out in the gas station. Like they got nowhere to go, nowhere to be. You know, they're just catching up on the town gossip. And I remember one lady was talking about a dog that she adopted, and then the other lady was trying to take her back from her.
Oh.
I think they just, I don't know. They just small town gossip and.
Maybe it's just different priorities.
Yeah.
Different priorities, or you learn, you get your joy and satisfaction from life in different areas that we don't pay that much attention to.
Yeah.
I think maybe I'm not sure.
I'm going to interview them on the podcast. We'll find out. I'm going to go to some of the small towns and be like, what do y'all do? And what do y'all think about us? We'll get their perspective on us and us on them.
I like that. I have a town that you should go talk to some people. You'd find some real interesting folks.
Where?
Elk City, Idaho. It is on the Western Wilds route, and it's about 500 people and has, 2 grocery stores, a gas station, and that's about it. A post office, but super super cute, super friendly.
Elks, Iowa.
Elk City.
Elk City.
Oh, Idaho.
Okay.
Idaho.
I like Idaho.
It was beautiful.
Idaho
was wonderful, but I met some real interesting characters there, like a guy who got banned from the only grocery store in town.
I wonder if people were charging him a surcharge to do his grocery shopping for him.
Yeah. Like, what did you do to get banned from the grocery store?
Oh my gosh.
The only one in town.
I have some guesses.
Yeah.
I'm probably wrong. So how did day 3 go?
Oh,
You rode with Tony. Todd? Yeah, Todd Nisbet.
Yes.
Concrete Trails on Instagram.
It was just honestly, day 3 was just a struggle. I was just trying to get done. By that point, I knew that I wasn't going to do the lower loop. Like there was no way I was going to have time. So I just wanted to finish. And honestly, it's kind of a blur. Were you
riding much, or were you walking a lot? Like
I was riding slowly, but
were you able to like keep any like positivity, or was it just a slug?
It was
a slog.
Honestly, it was that positivity was a struggle. I was having trouble keeping some positive thoughts there. I heavily relied on music to keep the mood light and not delve into too many dark places, because I felt pain at all the contact points. My back hurt, my hip was hurting, and just all these old injuries just kind of resurfaced at the same time, things that I had worn out from the previous trips that I hadn't let heal before starting this. So I was in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And I knew that like I was already making my plan for like, what do I need to do when I come back to Austin? It's like, all right, got to go to the chiropractor, got to go get a massage, probably going to have to go to the chiropractor again.
Put Humpty Dumpty back together again. You and your bike, man, both.
Oh yeah, no, it's a process. It's a process.
Takes it out of you.
Like figure out what the order of operations was for that. Turns out the bike was first.
What was it? Whenever people would, pass by the bullet, or supposedly pass by the bullet, we would always stand on the other side of the road and try to be like, come on, you do it. And you could tell the people that were like not at all going to keep going. And you were one of them. You were like, no, even.
I was so excited to see y'all. I don't think it showed on my face, but I was so happy to see everyone out there.
Yeah.
Cheering and welcoming in the caboose. I didn't know I was the caboose. I thought there were other people still out there behind me.
People like dropped out. So there were people behind you that didn't finish, but you were the last finisher. Yeah.
Oh, that is so cool. Yeah. Thank you for calling me a finisher, even though I didn't complete either route technically.
I don't hold to. It's a very loose race. The race is there for the people who like want to go fast, but it's more of an opportunity to do it however you want to, right?
Yeah.
If you want to do it fast, slow, if you want to do that loop, add on that one. I don't care. I even called this guy Derek. He's going to come on the podcast. You probably haven't heard the story, but he he got lost. His navigation went down,
Oh no.
and he wound up knocking on a door. It was this old like house that was built in 1850.
Oh,
The
cool.
couple like gave him a tour of the house. They made him a spaghetti dinner. They like printed off MapQuest like things
Oh,
so he could like get
wow.
home. And he didn't follow the route at all. He made up his own like thing, but he's still a finisher. Like he still like went on an adventure. He went on a solo self-supported endeavor
Oh, that
and
is so
figured out his
cool.
way home. You know what I'm saying? He didn't call me. You didn't call me. And like, you know, you bailed yourself out. You got yourself into a thing and you bailed yourself out. And that is what it's about for me, you know, like that, giving people that opportunity is more important than like, oh, who did it the fastest, which we'll acknowledge the fastest and that's cool. But I really hope that with this event or race that we can celebrate everybody from first to last, and even the people, like I said this in my speech, but you didn't hear it. But
I was too busy driving.
a lot of yeah, you were driving. A lot of people didn't hear because they left early. They just had to get back home for work or whatever. So I'll mention it here. But I respect every single person that just showed up to the start line and started. Like no matter how far you made it, because so many people, you know, would never try something like that, either because they're too scared, they're too unsure, they don't believe in themselves enough, whatever it is. Like so many people have too many things that'll keep them from ever even trying something like that. So the fact that we had so many people try, whether you made it 100 miles or 380, it doesn't matter. I mean, I congratulate everybody for that effort, you know?
I 100% agree. And I'm just going to add on, what's really amazing is that you were able to bring those people together in the same event who
Yeah.
had vastly different goals and different experiences. And it was all because you brought them there
Well,
together. And that is
it's,
so cool.
thank you.
We all came away with something a little bit different. No one had the same experience.
Yeah. I was talking to Andrew Honorma, who is one of those fast guys, and we were talking about,
I wanted to meet him, and I
yeah,
was
he's
just,
he's cool. But like we were talking about how much we respect like you and Todd and, you know, other people that are like really just slogging through, and you're obviously like, I knew you had a lot of fitness, so I was like, she's either touring or something is not going well. Like I didn't know if I didn't have any expectation, but I knew you were pretty fit. You came from elevation, you just done 4,000 miles, like you're an endurance racer. Like I'm like, okay, she's either touring or there's a problem, but she's still moving, so everything's fine, you know. But yeah, I mean, we're just like in awe of, and that's the thing is like we often focus on who went fastest, but the people that are out there like really slogging through and are really struggling are probably oftentimes having a harder time than the guy that, you know, like you were saying, got done, you know, the day before. He's, you know, halfway through a bottle of whiskey and enjoying life, you know?
oh, I was so jealous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know, you think about most people aren't the fastest person. I mean,
Right.
99.999% of people who are out bikepacking,
100%.
they're more like me. They're out there struggling
Yeah.
or having a bad day or weren't able to execute their plan. And, it's okay. I like to tell people who are thinking about trying a bikepacking trip. And, I ask them a couple questions. I'm like, have you ever biked before? Have you ever biked more than like 20 miles? And if they say yes, I'm like, just go try it. Like, as long as you have this, like, you've developed some base knowledge of biking and a little bit of confidence in yourself, you'll be surprised at what you can do.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a total noob, I will say, like, take it slow.
I would
to
say
not totally jump off the cliff. But I'm a believer in, like, jump into that frying pan and see what you can really do. You'll
Yeah.
surprise yourself.
Especially with endurance efforts.
Yeah.
We are endurance machines, and going slow for long distances is something that we're actually pretty capable of doing.
Exactly.
We don't do it often, so our brain and our body, they're going to rebel, but that mental toughness of just pushing through, oftentimes you'll find that either you can do it and it's going to suck, or sometimes you just like some people just wake up one day and they're like, oh my gosh, I feel great. It's like everything feels good. You didn't get to that point.
No, not on this trip, unfortunately. But
But you still
I've
endured
been
it,
there. I've
Yeah.
gotten there in the past, and it is a liberating feeling to like, oh, I can go out and have really hard days, long days. Might not be going that fast, but I can do them back to back to back to back to back, and that is just such a confidence building experience. But confidence is weird. It takes confidence to have confidence and to build confidence.
Yeah.
So
Start small though.
that's why I think, I really appreciate your podcast and you're bringing out people because takes a little bit of inspiration to believe in yourself sometimes.
Even to come on a podcast, I find like some
I was
people.
nervous.
Yeah, well, I think everybody is, but I think the reality of it is that everybody's experience is valuable to somebody else, and you're right about what you said with the 99%. That's, kind of my focus with the podcast because I'm in that 99%. I'm not one of the fast people, I work and I mean, you're not working now, but you know what it's like to work 9 to 5 and like not have all the time in the world to train, and you don't have big windows for adventures. So you have to be very selective about the ones that you do.
All your energy comes out of one bucket. You don't have a work bucket and a fun bucket and an adventure bucket. If it's a rough year at work, like other things are going to suffer, unfortunately. So it's just learning how to parse it out and that energy management.
But that's why, man, I've gravitated towards it just naturally, but making like the East Texas Showdown or my Sam Houston restaurant tour that are geared towards beginners or, first time people, or the neat thing about the Showdown was that it can also attract like someone fast that wants to go with nothing. So it's like that perfect distance where you're like, take nothing, go super fast, but it brings like the community together. I never closed that loop on that thought, but that's what I was talking about with Andrew, is how, people like me, I look at someone like Andrew or Lael or any like fast person, right? And I'm just like, man, that's so cool. I love that, and I use it for inspiration. I'm like, man, if they can like push through the night, I can push at least one more hour or something, and it also lets you know that those things are possible. But, like I said, Andrew has a lot of respect for, it's not like the fast guys are like those chumps or whatever. That's the cool thing about this community is it's like everybody respects everybody so much. And so it was neat to get everybody together at the exact same event and celebrate everybody and just get to enjoy the experience. And it's not elevating one experience over another. We had people ride in all different manners. We had people with rim brakes. We had people with rigid. I mean, we had a 36er.
Yeah.
We had sandals. Anything you want goes.
Oh, the variety of folk who started this race was very impressive. I was very humbled, kind of to be a part of that mix. And just add my experience to others. I mean, I hope someone else can be inspired by me.
Oh, of course. I mean, yeah, it's so cool to be able to like see so many people take on a challenge. I wonder if it's speaking to like the number of bike packers that are out there that are just looking for opportunities. Because I don't know the numbers, but I feel like 60 to 70%.
So many people are out there looking to start bike packing.
It's crazy.
You see it all the time on different community groups online. I'm part of one for the Gap and the C&O Canal Path Trail, and it's every day there's someone who says like, "Hey, I'm gonna do this trip. Never done anything like this before. What?" And then they kind of list their questions. And what's really amazing is that there's a whole community who's just ready to jump in there and support them anyway, no matter what their question is, what their setup, where they're coming from, or how new of a cyclist they are. It just doesn't matter. Like, everyone out here wants to support everyone else. And you see that everywhere. Different gravel groups and
welcoming community. And I hope that, I feel like we're all doing our part in making sure that it stays that way, or hopefully it continues to be that way.
more people will come and do it. That's the whole thing, man. That's why I wanted to make this event like super accessible, not only with, the distance, but the resupply points, the information available. And I thought about this a lot because I was like, well, I don't want to take away from the experience and the adventure of it and all that. And I was like, you know what? Like, we need more stepping stones, we need more like, okay, there's the epic adventure, but how do we get there?
There?
It's like, okay, well, I've done an overnighter, I've done a little camping, but like, what's the next step? And that's exactly where I wanted to be. I wanted to be like the next step for people to where they could, maybe after they did this route, or they can feel comfortable to go out and do something like more epic.
Yeah, or they could plan their own thing. And the one thing about, I don't think you can put too much information out about a route, because if people don't want that information, they don't have to read it. You'll get people like me who are like, I'm not going to read that.
Yep. That's exactly what I landed on. I was like, you know what? The POIs are there, but if you don't want to look at them, just turn them off.
Yeah.
It's like, go blind. You don't have to look at it. That's where I ultimately landed. So tell me, what was your favorite part of the route? Aside, for the route itself, yeah.
I was really excited and looking forward to the times we crossed the Neches River and the river valley, and I knew what the terrain, like coming across the floodplain, because I figured it'd be this nice, like beautiful sandy floodplain with this deeply meandering incised river, and that would be just this. I imagine the river is this majestically beautiful slowing snake across the landscape, just weaving back and forth across time. And I definitely stopped on the bridges, even at night when we crossed it the second time, to just, kind of admire it and take in its beauty and majesty and the effect it's had on the landscape, and how it's the power of moving sediment downstream, just the geologist speaking into me. So I was really looking forward to, crossing through those different like geophysical provinces. And I really like rivers.
I do too.
They're beautiful.
Do you do much like kayaking or canoeing or anything?
No, I don't. I'm also terrified of whitewater.
Oh, yeah.
So crossing water with my bare feet is something that I'm really scared of. And that is something I conquered this summer a couple times on my route, that when I went off the Western Wilds and into Utah, did my own thing, I had a couple really sketchy stream crossings where I had to stop and like, all right, how am I going to do this? I don't know how deep it is.
Carrying your bike and everything?
I prefer to wheel the bike for the most part, to use as kind of a stability, and also I'm not with the loaded bike, or else you just have to leave it on the side bank and take off all the bags and take everything over one at a time.
Yeah.
If you need to, because I don't think I'm quite strong enough. I can't carry my bike over the top of my head when it's loaded. I was worried about quicksand because I have had an experience in Escalante previously backpacking, where we had there was my friend got stuck in quicksand, and we had to dig her out, and we ended up having to re-engineer the stream to reroute the water around her so we could actually effectively dig her out. So that was running through the back of my mind.
I've never seen quicksand before.
It doesn't look like much. It just looks like sand in the stream, or just even if it's not quicksand, but just sinking up to your thigh in thick mud in a stream. There was a time I crossed the Muddy River, which is really aptly named the Muddy River. It was just nasty, muddy, like a mud bottom bed of the river. So you're like, you step in it, your foot goes, and it just keeps going and going and going. You're like, shit.
Okay, I have been one of those before.
What's gonna happen? And then I got to the other side, and the bank collapsed on me, and that was a real big oh shit moment.
Oh my god!
By that point, I'm like, I don't know where the trail is, so I just had to. You take a moment, you look around, you look at the landscape around you, and you think about where the route has to be, match it up to the map, and head in that direction, and don't deviate.
Smart.
Trust your skills.
When you're looking for where the route has to be, you're saying like, based on the terrain.
Yes, and keeping a good sense of direction, and does the route generally head downstream? Am I crossing across the slopes? Am I going upstream? What were the the river junctions that I'm passing? should I be going into a bigger valley or should we be going into a smaller valley? What does a satellite imagery look like? Does it like look like bare slope, or is it this like low mesquite that's over top of my head that might be blocking my view? Um,
Yeah.
all sorts of context clues.
That's what I look at. I'm like, it dips down there a little bit, I think. It pays to be a geologist.
Maybe.
And pay attention to your surroundings. It really does help to pay attention to your surroundings. And you get to immerse yourself in everything, the weather, the terrain, and everything whenever you're bikepacking. So you do become more aware. I haven't become aware to the level that you are, but, more aware than normal than if I was driving down the highway in my car.
There can be too much awareness, and sometimes you just got to shut that off. It's like, I don't need to think about the worst possible scenario right now.
Yeah.
I just don't need to think about it. Just concentrate on the simple stuff that you can conquer and you can do something about. So, I forget why I started talking about quicksand, but
I don't know. But I was gonna. Rabbit holes and tangents are just a part of my life. So, how long did it take you whenever you finished? Because I was there when you finished. You weren't feeling great. Like, how long until you actually started to feel okay?
As soon as about like an hour of just not moving and kind of really letting that stomach settle and get the bile back from the throat, and just taking a little bit more food and water and let it digest in peace instead of while moving and like kind of hunched over. So it took me about an hour, and then I felt like I was okay to drive to go to a hotel, because I didn't have any dry clothes to wear because everything in my car had gotten wet, because I had forgotten that I had a leak in the roof of my car over the summer. So all that rain just kind of poured in, and I had wet bags and bags and bags of wet clothes because I had everything with me from California in my car.
What did you do?
It stayed wet for a couple days until I could get to a laundromat. To be honest, I didn't do anything.
Yeah, what can you do?
Nothing. I knew I needed to get to a hotel so I could get a good night's sleep and rest and get the sand out of my hair and out of my ears.
Priorities.
Yeah, I think were you driving behind me that day? No, because you left. Oh yeah, I'm glad I didn't get pulled over by the cops, because I realized I was driving like an old person or a drunk person, because I was not going 65 miles an hour on that road. I could not do it. I'm like, that just seems too fast. Let's go 40.
Oh no, it's so funny because I was behind. I didn't know it was you, but I was behind you for a while. But it was funny because I remember thinking, I'm like, man, this person and I were on the same way, because I drive slow anyway. I drive
perfect.
I drive that big old refrigerator box on wheels, so it doesn't even like to go that fast. But I was wiped out. That's why I didn't stick around long. I was like, man, I was so tired. I had my own like endurance sport and had an hour and a half drive home, and I was looking forward to my bed and all that, right? So, but I was driving slow, and then I saw it was you. I was like, oh yeah, but you weren't driving drunk or anything.
I was afraid of getting pulled over for driving drunk, and I was like, I'm gonna have a hard time proving that I'm not. I'm not gonna be able to walk straight on a line. I'm like not slurring my speech, but I don't look right.
Yeah, you just have to give them my number and tell them I'll explain the whole thing. Just tell them you're crazy.
Oh man, you know how many times I've been called crazy this summer? You're doing what? You're crazy.
Well, you are kind of crazy. No, I'm kidding.
It's a good kind. It's the good type of crazy.
Yeah, a good kind of crazy.
It's the directed
adventurous.
Crazy.
Just adventurous.
Thank you.
I don't know. It's not that crazy. It's crazy to people because they haven't gone through the same steps that you have. They didn't grow up camping. They don't have years and years of experience biking and all that. So it's crazy to them.
Exactly.
In their worldview, it's crazy. But from your worldview, it's a transition that's been happening over a long time. Your whole life, really.
Yeah.
All of it, the way you exude like confidence in the outdoors or whatever. Those are learned traits that you probably got from like your parents or just growing up in the outdoors or whatever.
Exactly. It's like, well, the good news is there's lots of stuff I am not good at. So.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah. So we all have our special areas of interest. And so I think bike packing has just fit this really amazing place in my life where I get to use the skills I've learned. I get to observe the earth around me and like work really hard riding my bike and be an athlete, be a scientist, be an adventurer all at the same time, and it is just so rewarding.
What's harder, the East Texas Showdown or this table?
Oh God, this table. No. The East Texas Showdown for sure. Because I don't have to sit at this table for like 38 hours of riding.
Yeah. I'm actually interviewing Alicia and Hannah up next.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I'm doing 5 interviews in less than 24 hours.
Oh,
pew, pew, pew.
man. I saw Hannah last night for her birthday party.
Yeah, I'm going to have to wish her happy birthday.
Yeah.
Are you, so we're going to do the East Texas Showdown again in March.
Oh, March already.
Yeah.
Oh.
The demand and interest, I mean, so many people are like, let's just do it in the spring. I'm sure, no problem. I think it'll be better because people won't have to train through the summer. That was one of the issues that a lot of people here had, was like it was just so hot to be able to like get actually race ready. Luckily, the weather cooled down like 2 weeks before or a week before, but
that's good.
March.
That's good. March. I think that would be that's ideal.
Yeah,
That's
see where you're at
terrain.
with your job and everything, but
Yeah,
you might get to. I don't know. That's the question though. Would you take another stab at it?
I love when I don't finish something. I do like coming back just to finish it out and do it the way I wanted to. I would take another stab at it. Already having ridden that course, it's like it almost feels like not fair to compete against my other time now, because now I know, like I already mapped out some like camping sites, or like, oh, I could have stayed there. Yeah, I would try it again. Maybe not this March, but
you earned that knowledge though.
That's true.
You did earn it. You went through all of that so you can have that knowledge and you can use it next time. So
that's true. That's one of the things I found the most challenging about the route, was thinking about how I wanted to ride it. I got used to being able to just kind of camp wherever I needed to at the moment, or ride a couple miles and there'd be something appropriate where I could like tuck away, and I wasn't butting up against like private property or the issues we have in Texas. So even though that's not what I did, I camped at the campsites that were kind of laid out, which was amazing to have that as a resource. Riding it in the way I think I would want to be competitive it's going to be harder than I thought it would be, because I'm going to want to like camp somewhere in the middle of the road. It's going to be in the middle of the road or something, to get
next time we do it though, there'll be dispersed camping, so you can kind of camp in a lot more options. So it'll help.
But even then there's still not. Even then, it's gonna be a challenge.
Yeah.
Cemeteries,
I like those. Those are my favorite place.
Yeah.
All right, well, I got to do the next one.
All right, well, thank you for interviewing me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, well, thank you.
I am honored.
Thank you for coming all the way from California.
Yeah.
And congrats on being our Lanterne Rouge.
Woohoo! Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, I hope that y'all enjoyed that conversation that I had with Katy McGuire. Obviously, we had a really enjoyable time, and we enjoyed the conversation, so hopefully you did too. I had to wrap that one up because I kind of lost track of time when Katy and I were talking. We were just having a good old time, flapping our jaws, and I looked down at the clock and I was like, oh no, gotta go. So right after this one, I scramble over and meet up with Hannah and Alicia, who were the first place finishers on the East Texas Showdown route for the women. And they shared first place, so it was fun to chat with them and hear their experience. And that is coming out next week. So you'll have to hang tight one more week for that one. All right, well, that's all from me today. But I do want to ask that if you enjoy this episode or any other of the 92 episodes that we've produced here at Bikes for Death, please consider signing up as a Patreon over at patreon.com/bikesfordeath, or supporting the show in a number of other ways. You can visit our website at bikesfordeath.com. We got a store there with a lot of hot fire merchandise, so you can rep the Bikes for Death lifestyle. We also have an affiliate link program there. So if you're looking at buying pretty much anything in the outdoors or cycling industry, we've got a link for you. REI, backcountry.com, Helinox chairs, Hefe bike, lots and lots of options there. So if you're looking at doing some shopping, especially as the holiday season is upon us, you can use those links. And every time you buy something with one of those links, Bikes for Death is going to get a little kickback. And that's a great, easy way to support the show. Another great way to support the show is to leave a 5-star review on iTunes. It is easy, it is quick, and it makes a huge difference in helping other people find this show, which is great because, as you know, I'm in the business of inspiring people to get outside and ride their damn bike. And the more people on bikes, the more better for everybody. So if you are going to be in New Mexico this weekend, holler at your boy. Other than that, I will catch you on the flip side next week with my episode with Alicia and Hannah. Until then, enjoy this beautiful weather and don't forget to ride your damn bike.
It was the middle of the night. You grabbed your knife and you held it tight. The sounds of beasts kept you awake. The sounds they made kept you afraid. In the morning, you packed your bike. Memories forgotten from the previous night. You rode faster than ever before. Was it your imagination or merely folklore? Fear turned into strength as you pushed further. Every pedal stroke stronger and firmer. Your bike feels weightless, your legs aren't tired. You think to yourself, just a few more miles. Bikes for death. Bikes